You know what it is when you work with filmmakers like Woody Allen, who's so particular, and Todd Haynes, who's so particular, then it produces a particular and special type of work. And Carol's a screenplay that's been around for a long time, but it wasn't really until Todd Haynes came on board that it became a film.
But I can't really see anybody else playing the role other than you, which is always the best compliment you can give.
Well, thank you very much. I will take that. But it's about a love story between two women, so it's also the fact that you're working opposite Rooney Mara, you get given so much, so it's about the air between the two of you, I think.
And you are rooting for them at the end, which I think is a really nice, you sort of, the nice thing is you forget about gender and you're just rooting for two people, which I think is another really nice thing about the movie, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, so well, look, I think if the film had been made when the screenplay was first written, I think the gender would have perhaps been more politicised simply by the conversation that was surrounding the audience viewing it. But Highsmith's novel was, even though it was written so many years ago, it was the first piece of so-called lesbian fiction where it ended well, that one of the, protagonists didn't kill themselves or was redeemed by the love of a good man. And I think it's so refreshing, even in 2015, for an audience to view a story like that.
It is. And last night you said...
Sorry, that was a bit of a spoiler alert, wasn't it?
Well, I spoiled it as much, so,
We can cut that out.
Well, it's fine, and it's a celebration, so it's always a good thing. You said last night on the red carpet that, people fall in love wearing a G-string or a girdle.
Oh, did I? Oh, God. Sorry.
But no, it was a nice thing.
There's a lot of blah.
I was
blah, blah, blah.
Not a lot of wine.
No, well, no, not yet. No, not at that point in the evening.
But I thought it was a nice thing to say, because it suggests, a little bit like when you see your grandparents, you don't really consider them people, you consider them grandparents, and they're cuddly and they're nice, but obviously they're real people with hopes and fears of their own, all that kind of thing. So in the 1950s, falling in love is exactly the same as falling in love in 2015.
Yes. No, I'd actually, someone gave us a book of compiled letters, and one of the letters in there was I think written in the 1400s by a Chinese woman whose husband was being entombed and had died when she was pregnant carrying his child. And the passion that she poured into this letter was so contemporary. It felt like it could have been written yesterday. And you do forget, often we're sort of beguiled by a corset or the silhouette of the 50s, and you think these people surely didn't feel the same level of lust and yearning that we feel now. But of course they do. And that's what makes Carol timeless, is the 50s is a really important part of the visual world, but you forget about it, I think. And ultimately it becomes that's why Romeo and Juliet keeps being performed, because the love between them is a timeless, it's a timeless thing.
Todd definitely has a love for the era, and he's recreated it beautifully again. And you have some amazing outfits as well. On a sort of away from the seriousness of the drama, there must be part of you that thinks, well, I'll just pinch that coat, nobody will know it's gone.
Yeah, I know. I always think, particularly when you work with a costume designer like Sandy Powell, you fall in love with the costumes. But this was made in a shoestring, so A, all of the costumes had to go back at midnight, but B, they've sort of become like limbs. Like you get a costume home and you feel like it's something that someone else should wear because it's what your character wore. So I tend to sort of shed that stuff as soon as the film's over.
Yeah, I guess it would be a bit weird if you opened up your cupboard and it was just full of Cinderella.
Yes, I know. I know.
If it was just a wardrobe of your movies.
I know, but it's very important. We spent a lot of time talking about the undergarments because Morag Rosser did the makeup and Kate Giorgio did the hair, and Sandy obviously did the costumes. We were all working on Cinderella, so we'd sneak off at lunchtime to talk about the undergarments, because the thing with you try a period bra on, and it's like Madonna boobs, and so you think you've got to be you're very aware that in close up you don't want the breasts to enter the light before you do. So getting the undergarments right is really important, and then of course how they're going to be taken off in a film like Carol. It's very complicated.
Well, it's not a problem your male co-stars have any problem with either, so I feel like they should be made.
Well, no, it is, because sometimes it's the male co-stars who are taking those things off. Not in Carol, of course. That conversation was had with Rooney, but it is important to get the underpinnings right.
Now, this isn't an easy question for you to answer, but when I spoke to Todd, I asked him where you sat in the greats, in the all-time acting greats, and he said you're up there.
I was up there. Oh, thank you. He had to say that, didn't he? He's publicising the film.
I mean, after Blue Jasmine and everything, and then you go and make this, like, Do you put yourself under a pressure of thinking, I got to find another really juicy, brilliant role, or do they just land on
No,
in your inbox?
I am constantly giving up acting. I mean, I've had an embarrassment of riches in the last 2 years. You know, working with Todd again and opposite Rooney, and you know, and with a whole lot of people who I deeply admire in front of and behind the camera on this film, and then playing Mary Mapes in a really great screenplay by Jamie Vanderbilt with opposite Robert Redford. You think, okay, it's time to give up, and I'm constantly giving it up, and then you get seduced back by working with great filmmakers and alongside great actors. So, you know, and I'm very fortunate too. You know, I have 4 children who couldn't give a rat's patoolie about what I do for a living, and I also work in the theatre a lot. So, you know, I have a very well-honed sense of audience. So I've been very lucky, but you know, I equally would love to sit in a desert island doing nothing. And I'm also privileged and lucky that I can afford to do so.
Okay, well, see you on the desert island.
Yes.